Podsmashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-bit Podsmash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite.
I am Termite.
I am Penguin, and he just hit my finger with the bottle of bottle.
This is becoming quite the game of what happens when we tink.
I know.
Every
right?
episode feels like we spill something, we shatter a glass, I smash your pinky, something ridiculous happens. We can't even cheers. Cheers.
Anyways, what are we drinking tonight?
My Corona. We are drinking Coronas.
Yes, in honor of the topic that we're talking about tonight, which is the coronavirus. So we'll be covering kind of the broader effects of the coronavirus that's happened in the gaming industry. We're bumping the episode we had previously recorded to the next week, where we talk about progression systems. So this week we're going to be talking... so we're actually, the episode we had recorded last week, we're going to bump 2 weeks.
Yep.
And this episode will be airing the week after we record it, basically.
So there might be a little outdated news.
It might be a little bit outdated news, but most of the stuff we're covering are things that have, again, already been canceled or things that have already happened. So you can't really change.
Lots is happening now.
New
it looks
stuff might
vastly
happen.
different than it did a week ago.
Yeah, new stuff might happen, between now and then, which we'll probably cover in future episodes.
Yeah.
You also might hear some redundant information in the following episode. But anyways, we'll cover that when we launch that episode as well.
Yep.
Whew. Anyways, so we're drinking Corona with a little bit of lime oil in it, essential oil.
Yeah.
So
instead of the actual lime.
Essential oils.
It does the trick. It's good.
Gonna, save us all from the coronavirus.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, cool. So
we are a weekly video game podcast, smashing together topics that you care about with video games. And today is a special episode, a special report about how the COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, has affected the gaming
industry. It's kind
of
crazy because we're kind of living through history.
This is crazy.
This episode,
historical.
like someone could listen to this episode and be like, "Oh my gosh, that happened 5 years ago," and they lived through that, and it changed everything.
I learned that we talk about generations, right? Yeah. Gen X, millennials, right? Baby boomers, what those mean. They're not just date ranges. They're date ranges that we have applied to events in history that have shaped a generation.
Yes.
This is that event. Like,
it's groups of people who lived through the world events.
Yeah.
And we're roughly the same age when it happened, because ages processes things differently. So a baby boomer is going to process 9/11 different than a millennial, because millennials were like at most in high school when it happened. Same thing with coronavirus. It's going to be one of those things where it's like Gen Z, millennials, boomers are all going to have a different experience with this thing.
Okay. Boomers' experience right now with it
is way more intense than ours. Yeah. So crazy. All right. Well, we'll break it down as we get further into it. But as always, we like to start with news. Since this episode is pretty much exclusively news, we're going to try to focus on things not related to the coronavirus. So, because we'll be talking about a lot of news that is related to the coronavirus.
We will.
And we have talked about news related to the coronavirus for a few weeks now.
Yeah, we have.
We've seen the writing on the wall. But, so a couple things have happened, though, since that's not related to
the
to
Xbox Series X. Information was unveiled. Microsoft and Eurogamer had an exclusive reveal event.
Eurogamer does Digital Foundry, right?
Right, yep.
Okay.
And Digital Foundry is a sect of Eurogamer, and so they worked very close with Digital Foundry. There are 2 YouTube videos that will break down every detail down to the bits, exactly what... like literal and figurative bits. That's funny. Yeah, it's punny.
So we're going to probably reserve a future episode. Yeah.
We're probably going to have a whole episode where we'll just deep dive into all of that, because there's so much information. But if you're so excited you can't contain it and you don't want to, whatever,
you
go
don't want to hear us
talk
about it. Yeah.
Go there and check it out.
They sound better than us anyways.
The one thing that I will say that is related to that news story and today's episode is that there was zero mention of any delay. It's still pushing forward for holiday 2020.
Sure, also zero mention of a release date.
Right.
So.
Yeah. They said holiday 2020 even today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they still pushing that same narrative. So, no change there. But we're going to get into that discussion
we will.
at the end of our episode.
Crazy.
Of tonight's episode. So the next news story was the Animal Crossing review embargo lifted this morning, and it is sitting at a 93 on Metacritic.
Wow.
It's getting a ridiculous amounts of 9s and 10s. So I can't freaking wait. The world needs Animal Crossing right now. And I don't know if you're on Twitter or any social media platform, but there's
hilarious.
Walls of people clamoring for Nintendo to release this game early, and the comparisons,
which is inspired by Disney releasing Frozen 2 and Rise of Skywalker early on Disney Plus.
Yep.
The difference being, of course, those are products that are already complete.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of like pushing a button and uploading them, you know
Right.
what I mean? As opposed to Nintendo's probably going to be working on Animal Crossing.
if there's a patch, I think there is to unlock the online stuff. But if you think about going gold and having to print the cartridges because of the physical copies, it's been gold for a while.
Yeah, it'll probably have a day one patch.
That's what I'm thinking.
I imagine they'll be doing some bug fixing.
Well, they have to patch it because the review code that everyone talked about didn't have the online functionality, so they have to turn that on, and that's going to be a patch.
Fun.
But anyway, it's reviewing really well. It's a perfect game for the situation in our life right now. Where we have to distance ourselves socially, and we have to we're not at a full blown quarantine yet,
sure,
but it's kind of acting like that. It's a lockdown,
lot of people
like a soft
are,
quarantine, and so this is the perfect, happy, like chill game to just play at home. It's
Get your mind
totally
off.
family friendly. Like you can have 8 people on an island at one time, all sharing resources and messing with each other. I'm sorry, you cannot play physically with 8 people at the same time, but you can have 8 people living on an island that is shared on your Switch at a given time. So you would log into it, your wife would log into it, your son would log into it, and you would each have your own play.
Maybe something I get to try to get my wife into it.
I can't wait.
I almost want to get it just like so because Macy had even mentioned that she seemed interested in
the game's so good
in it.
So fun.
But I'm not that interested in it, so it would be something I would literally buy just so my wife has something to play on the Switch. And who knows, maybe I'd play it and get into it. But
you should. Yep.
I'm probably going to get Doom that day.
So that's
Doom
also
is coming
coming.
out. We're expecting a review embargo to come out for that too.
Yep. I think it's tomorrow.
Things that have been announced is the Borderlands 3 second DLC, Gun Love and Tentacles, is coming out.
Yeah.
And they got a whole roadmap of content coming out after it for April and May. So it's coming out March 26th. And yeah, we had known it was coming. Obviously, it had been announced, but has a release date on it now. And then also in the realm of DLC announcements, the same day, Control's first expansion is coming out.
So
called
exciting.
The Foundation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Both of those things I really want to play. But I will probably be playing Doom at that point, so we'll see.
Do you have a Control season pass?
Like, I don't. Okay. So I'd have to buy the season pass. But it's not. I don't remember it being that terribly expensive. Right. I also might wait. That's one I'll probably wait for like Days of Play sale and get it on the cheap. Yeah.
Smart.
Because I'm not in a rush to play it. It looks like it's fun. They're introducing new abilities, and there's a whole like new story that takes place after the main game. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. But anyways, so
all of these awesome things to tide us over until the best thing in gaming in the entire existence of video games ever happens, and that is the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake on April 10th.
What if the parts 2 and 3 are better than part 1?
We'll take that as we go. But as of right now, it's the best single event in video game history. It's fine.
All right. I really hope it lives up to your expectations. You're going to be like heartbroken if it's disappointing.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, that's all we have for news right now. That's not other than the news that comprises the majority of our episode.
Funny you mentioned that because we have done. I know you were about to jump into our next segment. I train wrecked you.
You did.
We have episodes of this show that are a lot like DLC, where it's an entire episode of DLC, and now tonight is an entire episode that's kind of like our news. When are we ever going to do a whole entire episode that's favorite things?
I don't know. We'll have to have some really good favorite things. But speaking of which,
doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Hey, judging by the intro that we do, every podcast is an episode-long favorite thing.
That is true. Yep.
All right, Favorite Things is a segment of our show where we update you on something that inspired us or excited us or fulfilled us this week, and that can be taken literally or figuratively, as in I had a cheeseburger and it filled me up and I loved it.
Hate you.
So that is what Favorite Things is. And so what's your favorite thing this week?
I'm going to start with a half favorite thing. The existence of something is my favorite thing, but I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
The Tripaloopa from Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I'm dying to get one.
Let's go.
I want one so bad.
After this, we'll go to Taco Bell together.
Don't tempt me. I'm so happy that that's a thing.
Tripaloopa.
The Tripaloopa. Anyway.
Have you seen they also released $1
Grande burritos?
Grande burritos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The chicken one looks good. I'm not sure.
I want to try all of them.
There's only 2.
They're $1.
Oh, they are $1.
Yeah.
I liked the triple decker tacos they had for $1 in January. Those are the worst.
They were awesome, and I didn't even get them because I was trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
And Taco Bell is not for that. And my favorite actual thing is, speaking of losing weight, for my company, they hit me up every year. Simventions is a company I work for. There is a insect an organization within it called SimV Fit. There's some things, programs, if you will, that like promote employee wellness and being healthy, and so there's all these different types of promotions and things that we do. And in the past, we have done step challenges where everyone tracks their steps and logs them for a competition, and there's an award given. This year, I was pinged months ago to lead some sort of running event because I'm known as the runner because I've done so much running, and I talked about it on the show too, so you guys already know that. But I'm hosting, leading, and running a Couch to 5K.
Oh, nice.
That is meant to inspire the most unfit person to
I'm
feel
the most
confident.
unfit person.
And
Couch
walking.
to 5K me.
Yeah. The minimum barrier of entry is you will walk 3 miles, 3.1 miles at the event day. After 10 weeks of training, you can at least walk it. Yeah, that's the minimum expectation.
That's the minimum. Okay, I was going to say, I can walk 3 miles now.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, right? So it's supposed to be super. Anyway, I got a lot of support, a lot of positive feedback, a lot of people are jumping on, a lot of people are interested, so I'm super excited about it. That's my favorite thing.
Nice.
Actually, it was
man.
like brought up front during a company-wide meeting to like speak, and I'm like,
Did you throw out podcast cards and then like a t-shirt cannon?
Like everybody gets a card. No, but it was definitely ad hoc, and there was no prep for it. And they wanted me to share my story of weight loss and running because I was 65 pounds overweight, and people had come to me to ask me to go run, and people asked me to go to Weight Watchers. Like these things weren't contrived on my own, so I wanted to. And I told the company, like, I want to share that opportunity with everyone else, kind of pay that forward, and, like, maybe you wouldn't have thought about doing it unless I asked you. So I'm asking you, come do a Couch to 5K with me. And it was, like I said, it was received really well, and I have the full support of the company to do it. That was before coronavirus got crazy.
Oh, no.
So it's still on. I mean, it's happening, but it's going to be a little different. So I'm working that now, but that's my favorite thing. So
cool.
I'm done.
Awesome.
Yep.
My favorite thing, it's hard because I had a very challenging weekend of cancellations.
Yeah.
My favorite thing should have been going and skiing, which I had talked about booking a place with my wife a few weeks ago.
Which will air next week?
Favorite week. No. It was like 2 weeks ago, so this one probably has already aired at this point. But I talked about how my favorite thing was I finally booked a place to go skiing. And then the coronavirus happened, and the ski resort we were going to stay at shut down there.
So this is the same place that you already had drama with the Airbnb with.
We had already had drama with Airbnb, yeah. Well, but it was just for the place to stay.
Right.
In this case, the actual
ski resort
shut down their slopes. So we were offered, Airbnb like saw the writing on the wall and offered us a full refund. So we got our money back.
Yay.
And all we had to do was push a button pretty much. But it sucks because we've been trying to do this. I can say pretty confidently, Macy and I have been trying to go skiing for literal years. I mean, this is the first year that we really
went after it.
Went after it, and it's just kind of funny. I think I complained on Facebook. I was like, I'm sorry, the coronavirus is my fault because I tried to do something nice for me and my wife, and God forbid that happened without a global catastrophe getting in the way. So you're welcome world for the coronavirus. So I am. We had to cancel our plans pretty much. My parents were really bummed because they were going to have Gavin for 2 days. So, anyways, this is all just context for my actual favorite thing. What ended up happening was we stayed here. My buddy Nate had come. We had plans to just come and hang out Friday night. Anyways, it was originally before we were going to leave. So we hang out. We got Poco Loco, which has been my favorite thing in the past.
Yeah.
And we had drinks, which has also been my favorite thing in the past, just having drinks with friends. But today it's something different. So this time it's something different. We ended up talking finances, and he showed me this app called Robinhood.
Oh, yeah. So it all started with you, huh?
An investing app. Yeah, it all started with me. Yeah. No, it started with Nate. Yes, Nate. Yeah. Nate showed it.
I say this all started because I've been engaged in a Facebook conversation with your wife about it, and I guess that started with Nate.
Right, because so Nate told me about it, and I was too drunk to understand what he was talking about. But then the next day he texted me. He's like, "I don't think I explained it very well." I was like, "I was also drunk, so I probably didn't understand it very well." But in the morning, I was like, "My sober mind understands this." He basically talked about using an investment portfolio as a savings account, and what he said was, like, if you have a goal, say, let's just say something simple like a TV, $500 for a TV. He said basically you just invest until you can sell off enough stocks to make that goal, and then maybe over time some of that money you might sell and reinvest and just continue to increase. And obviously it's risky, but he said you could see, if you're playing the stock market right, you could see 20 to 80% return. And right now, given the stock market's crashing, it's a good time to buy stocks, not a good time to sell stocks. If you have existing stocks, you hold on to them until this crisis is over.
Yeah,
but if
before I leave tonight. I need your link.
Yeah, do it so I can get a free stock.
Yeah.
So anyways, I've been meaning for a long time to learn about the stock market, because I want to have a better understanding of how to invest money, because I use, like with my 401k, I'm just like, you people take care of it. You know what I mean? You usually send it off to someone
and forget it. Yep.
Yeah, and so in this case, I kind of want to like understand. This is a great like low risk way of doing it. Number one, it's an app, so it's convenient. You can see all the numbers. They do all the calculations for you. And number two, I'm just doing with small amounts of money right now, just to see how much I can make by just playing small stocks. And so, yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's interesting, and it's something new, so I'm trying something new.
Can you buy any stock?
Yeah, you can buy stock in Activision Blizzard, Microsoft, Sony.
All right.
The
I have an idea.
Bigger ones are expensive,
I'll put you
though.
on the spot right
so
now.
Sony's like $80 right now, and Microsoft was like $100-something bucks. I wanted to say there's one that was crazy. Costco was like $300. There was something that was like $1,000. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Apple?
I don't think it was Apple. It was something else. Anyway, sorry. What's your challenge?
My idea, or something we could do fun on the air, if we continue to do it. If I jump in and we're in this clicks, if this happens, if this is a thing, we should totally speak about how the video game industry is doing in the stock
Just
market.
looking at other stocks,
and like use
Just
that kind of
analyzing them.
knowledge of the industry. Like we make a lot of statements on the air, we make a lot of speculation and stuff that affects numbers on the stocks.
Yeah.
But we could actually try and make some money. It'd be kind of fun. Maybe we can clue our audience in on it.
Ooh,
Maybe they would care. I don't know.
Yeah, we can
Let us know.
maybe we can just do like a small mini bonus show or something about it.
It's almost like a fantasy league with real money.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, something new. I'm stretching myself. It's not exciting right now because again, it's just small amounts of money, and right now every day it's like it's tanking, but it should bottom out soon and then bounce back up. Bitcoin, by the way.
So yeah,
did you see it spiked?
No, it tanked.
Well, it tanked
with everything else
after a huge spike.
Yeah, I mean a bump.
There was something crazy going on yesterday. Yeah. Maybe it was a reporting error.
I don't know. I wish it would. But I'm looking at, so right now you can't see because this is an audio podcast. We're looking at my Coinbase, which is an app that does similar things with cryptocurrency. And I had a portfolio that was worth, I don't even care. I'll just say the values out. It was my fun money that I just messed with. It was worth $135 back in 2018.
Yeah.
Today it sits at, and I've done nothing, $18.59.
Wow. How much did you usually invest?
How much did I actually spend?
Yeah.
I think it was like $110, and I had some promo money.
Okay.
So actual money out of my bank account was $110,
Man.
which got me up to $135. Now it's worth $18.
Nuts.
And I haven't touched it since.
During
I've just set it and forget it 2 years ago.
Crisis, I imagine cryptocurrency becomes worthless.
Yep.
Gold, man. Invest in gold.
Well, so what I was thinking of doing was taking this chump change and throwing it into Robinhood, and see what I could grow out of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's that.
Anyways, cool.
Money.
That's favorite things.
Fun things.
Yay! Which leads us to our next segment, which is Downloadable Content. Is a segment where we have a little fun discussion, a conversation you may normally have about video games.
It's called downloadable content because both of our names are Dan.
Yeah.
And it's a play on words because DLC, downloadable content, which is like the video game stuff.
Anyway, so downloadable content today is a conversation you really wouldn't have normally about video games because these are pretty extraordinary circumstances. So I wanted to talk about a phenomenon I've noticed, which is the social reversing of the typical extroversion.
Yes, we live in an extroverted-based society.
Crazy extroverted society.
The people who get promotions in jobs are extroverts.
Right.
More like if you do the math, right? Like we live in an extroverted-based society. Customer service is what everyone deals with. Most of the best people at customer service are extroverts.
Tend to be extroverts.
Yeah.
Not
right.
are. I'm
it's true.
not speaking general, but tend to.
Yeah.
But and extroverts tend to be the ones who go to the social gatherings in the first place.
Yep.
Where things like promotions can start to percolate because
Yep.
they're involved and they're
yeah.
conversing with their bosses and all that stuff.
Right.
Not to say that introverts don't have their strengths.
A problem, by the way.
And not to think, yeah, no, for sure. And not to say that introverts don't have their strengths. And my biggest problem with people who identify as introverts often is they use that as an excuse to be reclusive. And it's like, no. It's just where you get your energy. As long as you acknowledge that about yourself, you should still seek to be sociable. But here we are in a circumstance.
Extroverts need to calm the F down and go be with themselves.
It's true, yeah.
And not use their extroversion as an excuse either.
Well, no, here we are in topsy-turvy day.
Yeah, now we're
suddenly in a place where the extroverts are told, no. You are putting the public at risk if you go out, so you need to figure out how to be okay on your own for a little while or with a small group of people while you're social distancing.
We're in an introvert's world.
So we are extroverts in an introvert's world, and it's a fun kind of topsy-turvy thing.
And my wife is an introvert, and I told her that. I was like, you introverts must be loving this. And she's like, I mean, it's not. We don't, obviously, because the coronavirus, it's a health risk. Outside of that, yes. They are enjoying the forcedness of everything being canceled, your schedule being cleared, and you just stay at home and
and recuperate your energy. Yeah, but extroverts, what tends to happen with extroverts when they are alone or in small groups for a long period of time is they start to go a little stir crazy.
Oh, we get nuts.
It's actually, I found that the same. Introverts report that they get exhausted and tired when they're in large groups of people. I find the same is true with extroverts. For myself, I can only speak for myself. When I'm alone for a long time or in a small, like only interacting with a few amount of people, I actually get lethargic. Being around people pumps me up.
Yeah.
So when I'm not around people, I just kind of am more likely to lie on the couch and more likely to just put my chores off. So anyways, for DLC today, talking about extroverts, we as extroverts wanted to give an extroverted guide to social gaming during social distancing.
Ooh, you have tips and tricks?
Tips and tricks, yeah. So we're going to talk about our tips and tricks for what are games that we like to play and what are the circumstances we like to cultivate in order to have social interaction with other people while we have to be remote. Mm-hmm. So I'll start. I'll say I like to play any game with a loot system, because that can really drive conversation. Because, sometimes it can be awkward to what are we going to talk about? We're not physically in person. And obviously you can talk about your lives and you can talk about stuff like that. But also loot games like Borderlands or Grim Dawn or PoE or Diablo are great games to chat about builds and stuff like that with. So they're good conversation starters.
You want to know what's a really good game?
What's that?
For starting conversations? Fallout 76. Because you have to farm gear and equipment and materials, and you have to do quests, and there's live events that just show up mid-game, and so you're constantly talking to the other person, like, hey, do you have a stim pack for me? Do you have the recipe for this? Can I get that? What are the materials I need for that? Where can I get some? How about you fast travel there? I'll go to you. It's awesome.
That's great.
Yep.
Termite, I hope you find people to play Fallout 76 with.
There's only one. Thank you, Jason.
Time. I'm trying to think of other games that are good. I mean, Smash is always a good one to play. Mm-hmm. The online infrastructure can be hit or miss, and I'm not sure how it works in regards to playing with your friends, but I'm sure there's a way. I think you can create a lobby and have people join it.
Yeah.
So Smash is good. I obviously prefer to get on with a mic, so if you're playing on PC, Discord is kind of ubiquitous at this point as a way to chat with people. Mm-hmm. Heck, you can if you want someone to chat with, hit us up on Discord, and we'll chat while playing games if we can, even if we're playing separate games. That's another thing you can do. That's another tip. You don't necessarily have to be playing the same game. Mm-hmm. I could be playing a single-player game. I could be playing Horizon Zero Dawn and going after that trophy. Just kidding. I just got it. And you could be playing Fallout 76, or you could be playing... what else are you trying to get through at this point? What are you playing? You're playing Outer Worlds.
There you
could
go.
Be playing Outer Worlds.
Come on, you know what I'm playing.
And we could be talking and chatting. So I mean, voice chat is great. PS4 has built-in voice chat, or you can use Discord.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You can always get pull up a laptop nearby and Skype if you just want to see someone's face.
Yep.
And interact, make eye contact. Mm-hmm. Any tips you can think of?
I would say if you wanted to, this is kind of a stretch, play board games together.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe get a webcam and a laptop that's a dedicated Skype account by itself. It's not a person, and have that webcam account join a group chat so that all the people can see the board, and have one person who's physically at the board actually do all the piece moving. I looked into that today because I was like, man, it'd be cool to get a new Legacy game and Skype all my friends in.
Steam has a bunch of board games
that are digital. But then you got to have a friend who has a computer that's got a Steam account who wants to download
Switch,
the game.
I think, has them too. There's a bunch of them on Switch too.
Yeah, but I was looking for physical.
Yeah,
and just Skype, not video game related.
Sure.
Just
yeah. The other one in that same vein, you can do Roll20 for D&D. If you're a fan of tabletop games, tabletop RPGs, and your D&D group just are going to risk getting together. Although a small group like that is probably fine to me, as long as no one has COVID.
Right,
it's probably fine. But if you Roll20, you can. I think it has built-in chat as well. If not, then you can just use Skype. And my brother and sister-in-law do that on a weekly basis. Get together with a group and play D&D. If you're the bold type and want to meet new people, then There's Reddit communities where you can look for groups for games.
Yep.
Whether they're video games or analog games or tabletop games, you can look for. There's plenty of different groups or places where you can look. I think there's a Reddit called LFG.
Looking for group? Nice.
And you can like post what game you're looking for, what platform, and all that. So,
and if you also want to meet strangers, you go to Twitch. Twitch.tv, you can find anyone streaming any game with a chat room, and you can go meet folks in chat.
This is what Twitch exists for. If you're just missing hanging out with people, find a streamer that you jive with, and hang. And that's the niche it fills. Is it fills the idea of like hanging out. You may take some getting used to, but you might find yourself liking it. So it's always something to try.
And I was actually thinking about 8-Bit Podsmash maybe bumping up their streaming game over the next couple of weeks, depending on how this whole thing plays out. Wow. Some ad hoc, random. We have a scheduled stream every Wednesday, every week in the evening. We could
totally do just like a
twitch.tv/8-bit-podsmash. And it's like maybe keep an ear out on our social media platforms because we might just do a quick, like, impulsive stream.
And I know that what I've been doing with my streams recently is having my friend Justin stream and chat with me.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a guest on our stream and want to play a game with us or just want to join the party chat, let us know and we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. See what is possible.
DLC wasn't meant to be an advertisement for us.
It wasn't.
But you can find us at all social media platforms on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm missing one. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, Twitch, and Discord. Discord link is on every show notes that we have, as well as the social media posts that go live every week. So you can find us at any of those spots. We also have 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our podcast platforms, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, etc. So hit us up, give us your feedback, and we'll interact with you. If you feel, are you an extrovert and you're so isolated and you're so sad and you want some friends, you have us.
And even if you're an introvert and you just want to interact with us because you have cool, amazing thoughts that you've thought of while listening to this podcast.
And you want to interject and get in this. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, have fun.
All right. That is DLC.
Ming.
Before we go into our main topic, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
For you and only you, but I'm doing it on the air.
All right.
Do you want another Corona?
Yes.
All right, awesome. I'm going to pause real quick, and then we'll get into our main topic while we get a Corona. And we're back.
With Corona round 2. Yeah.
Corona for coronavirus.
And you moved your pinky out of the way.
So our main topic is the 80-Bit Podsmash Quarantine Special.
Yep.
I actually wanted to say that at the entrance, but you beat me to it with my Corona, which is also very good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Thank you.
My. So yeah, we're talking about the coronavirus. We're talking about, or also known as COVID-19, also known as SARS-CoV.
There's so many names for it.
Yeah, there are. So we'll talk about, let's start there. We'll talk about what is COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. We're just going to do a high-level view and try not to go... Both of us are super nerdy and know things, and we'll probably want to delve into all the super little details, but we'll try to be as high-level as possible. So, what is COVID-19?
It is a pathogen, a virus that infects your respiratory system.
Yep. So that's what a coronavirus is. So there's different classifications of viruses as to how they do things. Right. Like the other one that I'm familiar with off the top of my head is Norovirus, which is a gastrointestinal.
Yep.
That's what food poisoning is usually a norovirus. But yeah, coronavirus, it's in the same family as SARS from 2000, the late aughts.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of what the other one's related to. It's not the flu though, so it's a different type of classification of virus as the flu. So it does different things than the flu does.
Right.
It is.
This is a good segue into the next thing I was thinking. Go ahead. It's what?
I was gonna say the virus's name is actually SARS-CoV and then some number, and the COVID-19 is the illness that it causes. So that's what the difference between those two.
Good catch. It's like HIV and AIDS.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
So SARS is the actual SARS-CoV is the virus, and then COVID-19 is
it an acronym?
The illness.
Does COVID actually stand for something?
I think so. I think it's CO is Corona, VI is virus. I don't know what the D is, but.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Usually there's an S in there because of syndrome or something. But I wonder.
COVID-19. Yeah. So we will probably end up using the terms interchangeably, but just know that again, high level view. COVID's the illness. SARS-CoV is the virus itself.
Oh yeah, coronavirus disease. COVID.
And then coronavirus is actually there's multiple viruses that are coronaviruses.
Man, look at that. I learned something new. I thought I already had all this covered. Nope. And they're calling it the novel coronavirus.
So novel coronavirus means It's new. I think there was something I looked up in regards to that. I think it's different because it's new in that it just recently it made the jump from animals to humans.
I gotcha.
Anyways, so if we use those terms, we will probably end up calling it the coronavirus most of the episode because that's what most of the culture is calling it.
Yep.
But again, I'm a nerd, so I wanted to be specific about those terms.
And we kind of did anyway.
Started in the Wuhan province of China back in December. November or December, and it started spreading because of the Chinese New Year, which happens in February.
Right.
So it really kicked off after the Chinese New Year because so many people were traveling to and from the area. But it started in wild animal meat markets. So it was because
they were testing in labs with this virus, apparently. And then this is what I read this. I don't know the validity of this, but apparently there was lots of testing happening on like lab rats, but there's a massive black market in China that involves the selling off of these lab rats or other mammals that people eat.
I heard it comes from. Yeah, I was gonna say I heard.
And then people eat it.
Interesting. I heard it comes from bats, and that's typical for a lot of these coronaviruses. Like SARS came from bats as well.
Okay.
And so I heard it was some.
Yeah.
I heard it was someone
that
essentially
could be speculation,
bought.
but.
Yeah, I've heard someone bought this bat meat essentially and made a soup out of it, and basically was patient zero or something along those lines. Several patient zeros probably bought the bat meat, but I've heard it made it from the wildlife. So now wildlife meat markets are banned in China right now. To no one's surprise, they probably should have been banned a long time ago. But this kind of thing. Supposedly, a lot of scientists are saying this kind of thing we should expect much more of as global warming happens because.
Yeah, new stuff.
Pathogens are going to start to adapt to the new environment.
And we also have an advancement of just our globalization in general.
Yep.
Like travel is easier, planes are cheaper than they've ever been. Like we're just more connected than we've ever been before.
Yep. So it's only it's the reported cases which would indicate hospitalization, not so much infection rate, but hospitalization rate. I think what's the number up to 150,000 worldwide or something like that. It's
and that's
in the 100,000s.
That's a key figure because the tests are new. Yep. So we don't have enough tests for everyone.
Right.
So we're not testing everyone at all. So what you see as a reported case is only what tests we have in existence. You can almost like correlate the amount of tests we have in production. It's a very involved process to test someone. They have to like swab your nose. You have to cough onto the test pad with the nose swab. Collectively, you have to send it off to a lab that has a specialized piece of equipment that runs the test and sends it back. So that's the infrastructure we're trying to build now. And that's kind of part of the whole conversation of why we are doing our social distancing and like everything's shutting down.
Right, we'll talk about a little bit more about social distancing. I want to talk a little bit more about the virus itself,
right?
Or at least the like history of what's happened with it. It only really affects the elder. I mean, it affects everybody. Like you can get sick, like you could get it and be sick. But the mortality rate, I should say, it doesn't really have a high mortality rate. I think it's 2 or 3% across all demographics.
Well, the difference is
it goes up with elderly. So if you're 60 or older, I think it's 5%, and if you're 80 and older, it's like 15%. So it's like a 5 to 15%.
It really affects
and people with pre-existing health conditions. So people with immunodisorders and whatnot are also affected by it. So apparently, infants and newborns are almost. I think newborns are even asymptomatic, and they had like a woman caught it while pregnant. Gave birth to the baby. The baby was showing no symptoms, but tested positive for the virus.
Interesting.
So it was infected. So I think newborns are asymptomatic. Toddlers are not. There's been not toddlers, I should say infants. No infant mortality rates have been reported across any demographics. So that's, for parents, that's very comforting because usually these things affect
and
the youngest of the young and the oldest of the old. In this case, it's just the oldest of the old.
The caveat with the death rate, or the mortality rate, if you will, is a 2 to 3%. The flu, I did the math myself. The regular flu, like 0.05% is the mortality rate.
Yeah, so you'll probably hear people.
A lot of people freak out over the this is not. They're trying to diminish this
catastrophe.
This catastrophe by quoting like, oh, well, the flu kills this many people. We don't freak out about it. The mortality rate is 0.05. We have tests for it. We have vaccines for it. We have infrastructure.
It's endemic too, meaning the terms you probably heard the terms endemic, epidemic, and pandemic being thrown around. Endemic means it's like Lyme disease is now endemic to the United States. It means that this is just part of the natural ecosystem of this area. That's what endemic means. Epidemic means it is spreading to other areas outside of its typical environment. And then pandemic is the biggest form of epidemic, which is it's global, it's worldwide.
Gotcha.
They think that actually coronavirus will become endemic to the world.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, apparently it'll be like a cyclical thing.
So something can become so Lyme disease didn't really exist, and it's named after where it was discovered, which is Lyme, Connecticut, I think. And it became endemic after being an epidemic.
Yeah,
this is going to possibly could become endemic after being a pandemic, which is not unheard of. Anyways, but you were absolutely right about that. A lot of people try to. Every time someone says that, it irks me a little bit. I've had to like hold back from getting into arguments on Facebook because I'm just like, it's not worth it. Right? People can be as dumb as they want to be. But that is a very important fact, is that the flu does kill more people worldwide every year, but the flu infects more people. More people are exposed to it. If the same amount of people were exposed to the COVID-19 as the flu, millions more would die.
Yep.
Way more than the flu. So you have to, again, all things being equal, the mortality rate is higher.
And to make it even more equal, we have no treatment for COVID.
Yeah.
We have no vaccines for COVID. We have no control over it at all. Yep. We don't even know what to
supposedly
expect.
there's a vaccine, and there's a lot of
18 months to make one.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what are countries doing? Let's get to that. And as you talked about, there are some countries that are in complete and total lockdown. There are some countries that are, well, China, for one, has more or less contained it at this point and more or less gotten a hold of it. They're also holding that over the rest of the world's head. Like, oh, guys, we contained it. Like, no, you didn't. You spread it to the rest of the world. But within their borders, they mostly likely, news just came out that they shut down the last of the mobile hospitals that they set up for it.
Yeah, so that was the impressive part to me. Was they stood up hospitals?
They did.
In
they
weeks
were
to give people treatment.
Just to get treatment, yeah.
Yeah.
But the United States is implementing a procedure right now called social distancing. So you'll probably hear that being tossed around. What it means is we're not in complete lockdown. They're not saying all businesses are closed and stay inside your house and we'll have military in the streets patrol. We're not at that stage yet. We could get there, but we're not at that stage yet. We are in a stage where we are implementing social distancing, and social distancing actually works, maybe arguably even better than lockdown.
Yeah.
And what it basically is you get enough people to, you basically encourage, you set incentives and you set encouragement societally to have as many people as possible work from home. You tell people, you encourage people to just stay in their homes. You cancel all events, and all events over. It used to be over 100 people. Now it's down to, I think you
50.
said 50.
Yep, that's state by state. All of this is new. The United States has never entered into this kind of thing before.
Right.
So I always find, and you could join me in this conversation, whenever we talk about like the Black Plague or the bubonic plague, we're like, man, if we had today's technology, what would that look like? Well, we're living that, right? We now have new technology. We've never had an epidemic like this before, and we're seeing with new technology, new modeling, and new statistics, and new intelligence about
and all
pathogens
that
is all being implemented to these policies. I didn't even really think about ever existed, but they do.
Yeah,
and they're not. Social distancing didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, this is a CDC research backed, smarts like science thing that has been planned for years. Like, people's jobs have been doing this. That was their career,
and the whole point.
Now we're seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, the whole point of social distancing is to, as you probably heard, #flatten the curve. What that means is the more people who are infected all at once means that's more people going to the hospital all at once. Whereas if you prolong the infection rate, you are making it longer, but fewer people are going to the hospital all at once.
Right. And you're not overloading the healthcare system.
You're not overloading the health. Exactly. So that's why the United States has implemented this. That's why people are staying at home. So again, a lot of people criticize, people are panicking. Some people are probably panicking. I'm not going to diminish that. However, the reason why we're doing this is not panicking. It's a very smart, very logical, very rational move. And for people like you and me who can work from home, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't.
This is a good segue to talk about how companies and businesses are handling this enforcement, because it's coming down. It starts at the federal level, CDC, and then it kind of trickles in. Now we're seeing the governors of the various states do their own kind of implementation of what's going on. And so Indiana, Maryland, they've shut down all restaurants and bars. They're not allowed to be open.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of restaurants and bars in our area have opted to, based on our governor's plan, to no gatherings of 100 or 50, wherever we're at right now.
Yeah.
Or more. So restaurants are now closing. They're closing their cafes. Fast food restaurants are shutting down.
Are they doing a lot of the... I thought in our state we were seeing a lot of restaurants shift to delivery.
Yeah, and that's based on an individual. If you are a business owner, you got to take that information and figure out how you want to survive.
Yeah,
like you can't work from home. You can't cook your food at home and send it out. Like you still have to run your restaurant, but you're not allowed to have customers in your restaurant. So what are you gonna do to make money?
Yeah.
So it's up to you to be innovative, and that's another aspect of this.
And I was gonna say that's the next how
step.
is it affecting? That's the next question we have too. Is how is it affecting things? And the biggest thing it's affecting right now is the economy, as you can imagine. So many businesses are being impacted.
Oh, it's nuts.
Airlines are probably going to need to get bailed out. The hospitality industry, hotels that host a lot of these events, things like Airbnb, as I experienced firsthand, like they're going to get crushed.
Yeah,
they're not
tourism.
even publicly
it's
traded
all
customer.
under the tourism. Minus, there's airfare and airlines, but then the tourism.
Yeah, and then things obviously restaurants, movies. Like
I got an alert that Regal Cinemas is shut down until further notice.
Yeah, and Disney had to cancel like 3 of their movies, not cancel, but postpone 3 of their movie releases.
Production of movies.
Yeah, production is getting shut down. Parks, amusement parks, King's Dominion, Disney.
Yeah, they're delaying. Yep,
they're all not
Disney
just delaying;
World.
they literally don't have opening dates right now. They're not sure when they're going to be able to open.
Yeah,
just as you can imagine, just nationwide, worldwide, things are just grinding to a halt in a way that doesn't happen normally, except for like Christmas Day.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you can go out and things are barren. Now, some industries are being impacted inversely or positively, I should say. So things like Citrix, which is work from home solutions, Nutanix, Microsoft, Azure, AWS, like all of these remote cloud-based solutions people are starting to
start pinging them
now I need to do this. Yeah, now we need to do this. I know our business is like, we already have one client who was like, we're going to buy more.
Yeah.
Like, we want to increase our Citrix footprint. So we're like, all right, cool. Boom, 20 more servers. Here you go. Here's the bill. You know what I mean? Like, so there are some businesses that are profiting off of this. Things like grocery stores. They're getting slammed. They're getting crushed. But boy, are they making a profit right now.
And then another aspect of that is the production line is not stopped.
Yeah.
Like, we can still make toilet paper because people in factory, most of that's automated. You know, there is like a resource gathering that's mostly... It doesn't involve a mass gathering of people.
Yeah.
If you look at a factory or a warehouse, people are working there, but they're separate. They're like they're more than that 6 foot that they're recommending.
Yeah.
So they don't have to stop. It's not like a snowstorm where trucks can't get to you.
Right.
You know, we're going to get another shipment of toilet paper.
Yeah.
We're going to get another shipment of food. It's going to be fine. Right now it's crazy because everyone's overreacting.
Sure.
But it'll kind of level out.
It'll level out, yeah.
And it's neat to
as
think
long as
that,
as long as grocery stores don't close, and I don't think they will. If the grocery stores close, the government needs to have a plan in place.
And I think Italy is doing like
a food delivery.
That's another aspect of that whole Instacart like food delivery. But they're doing
but like in a crisis too, like militaries,
they'll go get food and deliver.
They'll go get food and deliver.
Neat.
I mean, again, that's part of the emergency fund. That's part of the reason why the president has declared a state of emergency, or for
FEMA.
the entire country, is so that funds get freed up to do things like that. Whereas like, hey, we need to get food to people. So, anyways, that's all. That's like super like lockdown mode. In the meantime, grocery stores are open. And again, the whole idea of social distancing is that like people, there's still room to move around. You should look at the models. We'll see if we can link off to the models that show like there's still movement can still happen, but if enough people slow down, it slows it enough to make it so that it's not bad.
Yep.
Okay. So as we have established, lots of things are being impacted. We expect at this point that a recession will happen.
Probably.
Not just expect. I mean, the stock market's, as we talked about, already crashing, and it's I don't know if it's going to be as bad as the 2008 housing crash, but the effects of this are going to be long term, and it's only been down for a few days. You know what I mean? But one of those, especially as when you talk about a recession, one of those impacted industries is going to inevitably be gaming.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to talk about next, is how has the coronavirus pandemic, I should say, affected the gaming industry?
Just since like this whole thing had started, mass gatherings were the first things to go.
Yep.
So in like chronological order-ish, I'll kind of just talk about this list of things that have impacted the gaming industry specifically based on being postponed or canceled.
Yeah.
So E3 2020, gone. That's canceled. Game Developers Conference indefinitely postponed. So GDC done. Nintendo Switch production delayed for the Japanese market. Like that's been, we talked about that weeks ago. The Oculus Quest backordered. The Overwatch League events canceled. Call of Duty League events are canceled. Electronic Arts suspends all competitive gaming live events. Outer Worlds port for the Switch has been delayed.
Wow.
because there's
Didn't know about that,
a company that developed that they're doing. I cannot remember the name of that company at all. They were not allowed to go to work because of like their country. I think they're in Switzerland. I don't remember where they were. I apologize for that entire lack of knowledge.
Fine.
But
go ahead.
So anyway, there's no port being developed right now. They just paused the whole thing. There's a TurboGrafx 16 mini console that was being developed. That's been delayed now. And EVE Online's FanFest, which is an interesting aspect of this whole thing because that's an online MMORPG.
Yeah.
So how would that affect? I don't know enough about it, but it's been canceled. So that's just all of the gaming events for the spring. Like, gone. Clean slate. Nope.
And some of them for the summer. I mean, E3 would be June, which would be the summer quarter.
So we're creeping into the summer and getting summer events canceled now.
And I would not be surprised, given that, again, CDC recommends 8 weeks worth of events.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I guess 8 weeks would put us right up to summer.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like that June is the threshold. We're kind of waiting to see where we're going to be and see what happens.
So, I mean, that's, again, that you went through a whole list of them. That idea of, like, events being canceled, it's kind of the obvious one, obviously, because we just talked about events over 100 people need to be canceled.
Right.
But it's also like, it's huge. And, we've broken that down on our news sections for the past few weeks. And you'll hear us talk about it next week as well.
You will.
But so we won't spend too much time there. But again, just to reiterate, though, it is hugely impacting to the culture. I mean, just the fact that E3 is gone means that E3 might not survive.
Will they bring it back? Right.
Yeah.
That's
will they bring it back? Will they be able to bring it back in a way where
Mm-hmm.
people are going to actually want it? People were already, again, big companies were already leaving it. We've been talking about that for weeks.
Right.
Or for months now.
And it's weird that E3 is kind of this show that's been attacked. The relevancy of it has been attacked. It's been talked about every year for the last 3 years or so. It's like, how much more are we going to do this? Nintendo did their directs and started removing themselves from E3 other than just like a floor show to let people play their games. And then Sony backed out last year. They were going to back out this year again for the second time in a row. So E3's already had its like...
It's already shaken,
And the ESA, which puts it on, had this whole new plan to like drum up attendance and like appeal to the thing.
Womp womp.
And it was to do with like Twitch streamers and bringing in personalities and celebrities and making it more of this weird kind of show thing. I don't really know what the details of that are, but GDC has never been under attack. Its relevancy has never been, because that's where the developers get together.
Right, it's specifically a thing.
This is where
for
it
them.
affects actual video game development, and indie developing studios actually can get started and or funded or seen or exposure at these kind of conferences.
Yes, that's
So
directly impacting the products too.
There's an idea comes to fruition at GDC because of a social network.
Yeah.
Like, I've met the right person at the right time who's interested in my idea and funds it, and now I start a studio. I've created jobs for the economy, and I'm producing a new game that the gaming industry can have. And those are all wiped out. Like, those kind of connections aren't going to happen anymore.
Right. And then not to mention, of course, the fact that Overwatch League, Call of Duty League, these are large profile esports events that generate revenue, and also again are important for competitors. Imagine training your team for the Overwatch League only to have it be canceled indefinitely.
Right.
It's
and
like,
you're a sponsor of the Overwatch League, and that money that you're paying your players is gone because the sponsor pulled out because the event's canceled. Now you have players with no job.
Yeah, these things are hugely important for the health of the gaming community, and they're just getting axed left and right as a result of this. Again, it makes sense. The health and safety of people comes first.
Right.
But it's a big blow. It's a
jobs,
devastating blow.
money, development. Video games can always be reproduced, remade.
Right.
Connections can always happen.
Friendships.
But a life can never be restored.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that. The other big effect that it's had on the gaming industry, or that we expect it'll have on the gaming industry, or we question, I should say, none of this has been confirmed, but there's a lot of analysts who are predicting that the next-gen consoles will get delayed. So we
this
hinted
is
at that
rooted
early.
in the effect of COVID-19 on China.
Yes.
Because all of these electronics are developed and manufactured in China. Plastics are made in China. Circuit boards are printed in China. And so because of all of their production, what they have went through decimated the production line. What I said earlier about the food market and the grocery stores and like paper towels and soap and sanitizer and farming, that's not been affected or impacted yet in America. So grocery stores will be stocked and they'll be fine, and that industry will thrive a little bit right now with an uptick in sales.
Sure.
The video game industry will always be affected by the production of hardware.
And
And you're not going to get any hardware.
Right. They were already talking about how the PS4 required scarce materials a specific kind of RAM or something that was that
Yeah,
relied on
I
scarce
remember that.
materials.
Yeah, it was GDDR5.
And that was even before the COVID stuff popped
Right.
out. It was like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that report came out, and now that's probably even going to be less available.
Yep.
Because it'll be higher. Because those like cell phones, they use the same kind of RAM or something, and so they're going to be in higher demand.
Yep.
But that it's a twofold problem, right? It's the actual manufacturing, the actual like, can we manufacture enough consoles?
Yeah.
That's one problem. The other problem is if this sends us spiraling into a recession, that's a big problem for releasing a console. The whole reason why the previous console or two console generations ago were extended were because
Just one.
no, it was just one. You're right. Yeah, it was extended was because of the housing market crash or recession. If a recession happens, and if it's as bad or worse as 2008's recession, the housing market crash, then again, you run into a question of like, should you be releasing a $600 luxury item in the middle of a recession?
Right.
Because people's jobs are going to be affected, more people are going to be unemployed, fewer people who may have been able to buy the console in good times are going to be able to buy the console now.
Right.
So what do you do? What do you do if you're Sony and you're Microsoft and people can't buy your console?
Right.
Do you release it? Do you cut the price, slash the price,
Yeah.
and take a hit? Like, what do you do?
Right.
Can you afford to do that in the midst of a recession?
so many questions.
When all you do is produce luxury items. Yeah, that's
The bigger impact on that decision and that question comes down to the developing studios that are developing the games for the new console. And if you're developing a game, Sony has come to you and said, Penguin Man, I want you to make Penguin Man 2020. It's going to be the
amazing.
awesome game.
Game of the year.
And you're like, sweet, it's going to be a PS5 release title, which means my release schedule, my development cycle, the team, the load, the amount of money that I need is directly tied to the release of PS5. And PS5 gets delayed. Suddenly you have a team of hundreds of developers that, what are you going to do with them for a couple of months? How long is the thing going to be delayed for?
Yep.
Are you going to pay them? The game's kind of done. You have a development cycle set and plan. You have a schedule. Game's going to be done. Holiday 2020. But there's no console with which to launch this game. What do you do?
What do you do?
This is across all the developers and all the publishers. You can see how complicated that gets when you have third-party developers that are making a game that will go live on Series X and PS5. What if only PS5 gets delayed but Series X doesn't? Then you have this weird conundrum. It's a massive business impact across the board. And so you and I had some conversations of bouncing off what could they do to save face and what looks different now than we've ever had before. And these PS5 Series X consoles are the same fundamental architecture
as the predecessors,
as their predecessors and PC.
Yep.
That's the x86 architecture. That's just in layman's terms, it's how the processor interacts with its hardware.
Yep.
It's just you can compile it on one console and it plays on another. Even though they have entirely different processors, different video cards, it's because they yield to the same architecture specification.
Yeah.
And it's nerdy. It's cool. It's fine. But that's what it is. And with that, we've never been in this environment before. So my speculation was they could actually release those new games, strip them down to whatever, remove any features that would be exclusive.
Ray tracing,
those
all that
kinds
stuff.
of things. Lower the graphics down, maybe limit the frame rate and the resolution, and publish it on current gen consoles.
The big thing that I'm worried about though with that is the solid state drive.
Right.
A lot of these games are
streaming.
a lot of these
Texture
games
streaming. Sorry.
Yep. A lot of these games are being designed with the fact that with a solid state drive we won't really have to worry that much about load times, and that's becoming the thing that a lot of games are the load times are awful. I mean, even some of my favorite games, I'm Borderlands has crappy load times. Horizon Zero Dawn, I just platinumed it, and oh my gosh, the load times especially when you're just trying to bounce between campfires, fast travel points, and get the collectibles. It's all right, now here's gonna be a 5-minute load screen. It's not 5 minutes, but here's gonna be a 2.5-minute load screen. Let me browse my phone for a little while.
That's what sucks. So you completely disconnect yourself from the game.
Yeah,
with a load screen, you completely remove yourself.
So how many of these games are being designed with the fundamental idea of great, we'll have a quick load screen. It'll be 2.5 seconds, and then boom, they're back into the action. It's not gonna take you out of it too much. But then now, okay, well, let's say that Godfall, for example, gets reverted to PS4 specifications and architecture to be played on that, so it can still release in time.
Right?
Is it possible, number one? And number two, how much is that going to hurt the gameplay when you have bigger load screens?
And PS5, Sony had that tech demo with Spider-Man, and they showed him web slinging, and they said the speed at which he could web sling was limited directly by how fast the PlayStation 4 architecture could load the textures and like produce the city stream. And they showed it on PS5, and he was the speed of a jet that was like crazy fast.
Yeah.
And they said that's what they could do with PS5.
They also
architecture,
showed the actual load screens, like
which was like
warped,
instant.
and it was almost instantaneous.
Yeah.
Compared to like in the actual game where it's not bad. The load times in Spider-Man weren't awful, but it was
0.8
noticeable.
seconds on PS5.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. And there's Digital Foundry's video on Xbox Series X showed a Xbox One X game loading on the new consoles. Like it's kind of a backwards compatibility enhancement feature, and they dropped like a 60-some second load time down to like 20. Nice. It was insane. It was like 3 times faster. It was really
that's a
quick.
good segue because Xbox already has an answer to this, and that is their games are already being designed to be played on the Xbox One for a certain amount of time because they've said that they want it to be. Again,
they took the lowest common denominator and developed software for that.
Yep.
And then it just enhance it where they can
exactly
for whatever new things they want to do.
Yeah, so the question will be like PlayStation seemed to be planning to draw a line in the sand. Will they be able to do that now?
Right.
So so the question becomes, will they ultimately, if you don't understand what we're talking about, what we're boiling this down to is PlayStation, is Sony going to try to release their games on the 4 that are supposed to come out for the 5? Or are they just going to delay it till the 5 comes out?
Right.
Are they going to delay the 5 at all? Because you and I had also talked about one of the solutions to this problem is make as many consoles as you can and then bank on the scarcity.
Yeah.
To drive sales in the future.
Oh, it's sold out. It's always sold out. Oh, it's super hard to find. Now people are gouging it on eBay. It's drumming up news beats. You're getting headlines. You're seeing screenshots, social media. Everyone's getting mad at the price gougers. Everyone's extremely excited they found one. It's like this treasure, hunt. It drums up so much
But
attention.
all of that could get axed by the fact that people are like, well, I just can't straight up afford it.
Right.
The price gougers can't afford it. And even if they can, the people aren't buying it from them at the price gouge point, so all that headline and hype goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a gamble. And I would hate to be Sony right now. I'd hate to be Microsoft right now, but at least Microsoft kind of has like a solution in place. They could just delay it for a year, see how the economy goes, and in the meantime release all their games and probably be okay. Whereas Sony has all these difficult choices to make.
Right. And how many exclusives do they have?
Yep.
Are they in-house, and can they fund those development studios longer than this delay to make them survive so they don't get closed down? Like, there's so much business and economics involved, because I could not give you an answer as to why the 2008 housing recession literally affected the console lifecycle. I don't know why it doesn't make business sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I have a commoner's
again, luxury
knowledge.
items during.
I mean,
the idea of
that,
luxury items
but
during.
they've got
a recession.
numbers. They've got hard graphs about this is not a good time to release a new console, and that might be the case come the release window of the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
So on the other side of the spectrum, because again, the crazy thing about this whole thing is there's like two sides. There's both negative impacts and positive impacts.
Yeah.
So some of the positive impacts that may be negating, maybe not negating, but mitigating some of these negative aspects are things like digital sales are up.
Yeah.
Because again,
no one's going to the stores.
Right. Are you going to go to GameStop to pick up your copy of Doom? Are you going to risk having some Amazon employee who you don't know may have coughed? Here's one of the little fun facts about COVID-19 or the SARS-CoV. It can last on surfaces for up to 2 to 3 days, depending on the temperature.
Wow.
Now, granted, under warmer temperatures, it actually doesn't do as well.
So it'll be diminished in the
hopefully
summer.
it'll get diminished, yeah. But in the meantime, guess what ships within 1 to 2 days?
Amazon
packages. So some Amazon employee who could have coronavirus and not get... And like one day they're not symptomatic, but they're
they think they're fine.
They think they're fine, but they're contagious. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
They cough on your copy of Doom Eternal and ship it off to you. And it not only can the virus last as long as between where it comes and where it gets to, but also that person doesn't know until 2 days later, anyways.
Yep.
And then that's when they're finally sent home.
New
in
video
quarantine.
games are shrink wrapped. Just get them, open them, wash your hands.
Yeah, right.
And throw everything in the trash.
Probably a good idea.
And I just smack the mic.
But do you risk all of that, or do you just push a button in the comfort of your home and get a completely clean copy of any game? Digital sales super up. Steam. Concurrent players.
Yeah.
Like, people are now stuck at home. I know I have tons of friends who are actors and all their shows are canceled.
Right.
So they're sitting at home bored out of their minds, and so many are talking about games that they're playing.
Yep. Suddenly they have free time on their hands.
They have tons of free time. So they're on Steam, they're on PlayStation Network. I know PSN had there was like a thing where like people were looking at the active subscribers, and they're like, it's the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Can PlayStation's network support all these players at one time?
Yeah.
But that's good. That's good things for, you want people to be playing on your platform. So it's probably great for those companies. Again, for Steam, more people are getting exposed to their deals, so therefore buying games.
And that's kind of the answer to what I was talking about before. Like, if a development studio has their game delayed because of a PS5 or an Xbox Series X delay, they can almost make up that money on other games that they have published and made that they still own the rights to. So, like, EA, for example, they're going to be fined because their digital sales of FIFA, Madden, and Battlefront 2 will skyrocket while they're developing their new games for these new platforms that get delayed. But exclusive studio, every studio is different, case-by-case basis. Activision will be fine because they just released a new Call of Duty free-to-play Battle Royale Warfighter game that's going to drum up a ridiculous amount of revenue. And they also have MMOs like World of Warcraft that will see more traffic, Activision Blizzard. So like we're going to see these gaps get covered by the digital side of it. So
and just the idea of like gaming is something that people are going to do more of and want to do more of when they're quarantined at home.
Yeah.
You know, the long-term impact, the sort of like what happens afterwards when you know recessions are one thing, but in the meantime, in the short term, a lot of money's being made actually by gaming and the gaming industries because it's occupying people. You
guys might be thinking and listening to our show and you're talking about like, why aren't you talking about this internet infrastructure? There's actually been some altruism from our ISPs.
Yeah.
And they're releasing or removing data caps and they're increasing speeds for free for folks.
That's awesome.
They're also removing late fees if people have lost their jobs or come under like financial burden because of all of this. They're like postponing any late fees. They're not turning off services. I've heard the government mandating that no one can have their water or electricity turned off during this time. So lots of things that you would think. Restaurants are offering free delivery. Like Grubhub has a thing that's saying that they would remove the delivery fee for anything you order through Grubhub so they can help people out. Like we're seeing a lot of altruism amongst...
Yeah, even, I mean, the government's doing some pretty impressive things too to try to curtail the problems with the economy. They've cut interest. Like they've reduced, they've completely eliminated, eliminated interest for student loans. And I believe... for loans in general from the Federal Reserve. I think it's only for businesses, though. Like, only big businesses can take advantage of that.
It trickles down. So, like, if you want to get a mortgage right now to refinance, you can go down to, like, 3.2%, which is crazy low.
Yeah.
But it's weird when they say they've removed... I don't know that... Like I said, I'm not a business major or anything. But what the government did at a federal level when they shut the interest rates down affects every credit card interest, student loan interest, mortgage interest... But it's not zeroed out across the board. It's at the top. It's zeroed out at the top so that other banks and other organizations have more freedom to not penalize customers for late stuff and offer lower interest rates in order to make loans cheaper. They can sell them more and continue to stimulate the economy. Yeah. So,
other things that are gaming related that have been affected are the other big thing that we haven't hit on yet is streaming. So, and we've kind of
and that's all based on the internet infrastructure. Yeah. So we need to have... I'm glad the ISPs are playing ball. And
so more people are just watching. Again, more people are streaming, and streamers have more time, especially a lot of amateur ones. But there's also the idea that people, again, any form of entertainment, whether it's Netflix or gaming or watching streamers, people have more time on their hands to do it right now.
Yeah,
so
they're all at home. Yep. And it was so awesome of Disney to release Frozen 2 3 months early on Disney Plus. And because they're not trying to get Disney Plus subscribers at their weakest state when they're at home trapped with kids and school's closing.
When all their parks have closed and they've had to delay all their movies.
Yeah. Suddenly, here you go, Frozen 2.
Frozen 2 will save us. So cool. What are our last question is, what do you think is going to happen? Gaming related, I guess. Obviously, what do you think is going to happen? But what do you think that's going to happen, like, for some of these things that we talked about that are kind of up in the air? Yeah,
and there's a lot of implications with the trade shows, like PAX and GDC and E3. Yeah. Like, if companies can find success without them, it's really going to put them into a spotlight for
extinction.
Like are they relevancy and like worth the cost over? But we're going to hit a new norm. Like, the world has been changed. Yeah, we don't know what it'll look like. And it's crazy we're even having this conversation because last week None of this was it like
No.
play. Like it looks so different. Like a 7-day turnaround from
Isn't
our
it
conversation
crazy?
last week to now.
Yeah, you'll hear it next week, I
Yeah.
guess, because
like
we
schools are closed.
Yeah.
For like 2 weeks.
Indefinitely.
Right?
Well, 2
Kind
weeks for
of,
now, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So spring break happened for a lot of the schools in our area. They're of course closed for that, but they're
Yeah.
extending spring break by a week, and who knows what'll happen from there. So we have
They're
kids at
basically
home
using
now.
up all their snow days because in our area there was no snow.
Oh, yeah.
They're like,
Right.
here's all your snow days.
Yeah, and they're doing it now. And so we don't know what the fallout's going to look like because we don't know how long it's going to take for us. And we don't even know what the point of victory is
Yeah.
when we can ever return back to normal. So this slow trickle back to whatever the new normal will be,
Yeah.
it's going to, one, take a while. But
Right, we
two,
wish,
don't
like a snowstorm, you can be like, oh, okay, cool, the snow's going to melt. The temperature's going to go back up this
Right.
day. You more or less can track that. Whereas, and even so, but with this, it's like, again, they say 8 weeks, but who knows what the major long-term effects of, like, warm weather will have. Because so far, it's all happened during the cold weather.
Right.
Months, I should
It's
say.
changing so rapidly.
Maybe
daily.
it'll all just kind of fizzle out because warm weather will have effect, or
But then
maybe
will
it'll
it come back in the fall?
Yeah, and
And
there's
will we
always
have-
the question of mutation, which I think is the other big fear, is
Yeah.
that the thing's already mutated twice. There's 2 strains of COVID-19 out there right now, and you can be infected with both at the same time. It's still just a respiratory illness, but as we saw with the Spanish flu, like coronavirus, only affected old people for when it first started emerging.
Yeah.
And then it flipped a switch one day because it had the more it spreads, the more chances it has of mutating.
Yeah.
It flipped the switch and started like affecting people our age and young, like people who are in like who were on all other circumstances completely healthy.
Yeah.
So that's why the Spanish flu just ravaged the population.
Jeez.
And that could happen in this case. Again, I don't want to fearmonger at this
Right.
point. There's no indication that it will happen.
Right.
It's a
a virus.
possibility, but
Yeah.
so I don't expect it to happen, but it
know.
is a possibility. So, yeah.
And
It's crazy.
What
So
do you- what do you
that's
think?
like worst case
Yeah.
scenario, but best
Right.
case scenario is just kind of dies off because it gets hotter. So
Yeah, and then it's done, right? So, do you think do you think we'll ever go back to the original normal we had?
I think that we're going to see some. I would rather hope that we'd see some social change. What I mean by that is there's we've seen in the course of history that widespread epidemics or pandemics have resulted in massive social changes in a lot of cases. The biggest thing I think that's in question right now is corporations offering sick leave.
Yeah,
There was a crap list of companies who they compared they weighed the number of employees versus the number of employees that were offered any amount of sick leave without getting fired, basically.
right.
And they put together a list of companies that were, the biggest offenders of that, basically. And of course, the number one on that list was McDonald's.
Oh wow.
Not, they have the number of employees they have versus the amount of employees offered sick leave is staggeringly low. So if you're a worker at McDonald's, and something like this happens, you can't just take off work,
Right.
unless the restaurant closes. Like, you're stuck. And even if the restaurant closes, that's equally as bad for you. You might as well apply for unemployment at that
Yeah,
point.
and that's always been an issue. Like I worked at Subway and Starbucks after that, and there was always this massive hardship to overcome. If you were super sick, you had to find someone to cover your shift.
You put the customers
Right.
and your
And
coworkers
so it was
at
so
risk,
hard,
yeah.
so hard to do that and like take off work that it was better to just show up sick.
And the typical response to that is, well, no one's forcing them to be there.
Right.
No one's putting a gun
it's
to their head and
voluntary,
telling
right?
them to be there. You are effectively doing that when you say your livelihood is at stake. You come in or you're fired.
Right.
How are you going to feed your kids? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's, for many people, that's not quitting is not an option. Being fired is not an option. So
Right.
they're going to go in because they have to deal with, like, not everybody's as well off as other, you know what I mean?
Right.
I find a lot of people saying that are like in a great job
Right,
and
and have
like
security, job
good
security with
standing and
PTO and-
savings.
yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yep, all the
Whereas
benefits.
like, if you're just living paycheck to paycheck and you've got kids to take care of and you're working 2 jobs,
Yeah. You can't afford to lose one.
you can't afford to lose it, and you can't afford to take off sick. So, like, what we're hoping, I think a lot of people are hoping, is that this thing will show how important it is for companies to offer a minimum amount of, like, at least, like, a week of paid sick leave.
Yeah.
Where you can just,
Hopefully.
because it's a public health risk at that point, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, so the point of that whole, like, list, the crap list, I call it the crap list, but the whole point of it was to demonstrate these are companies that are putting profit over public safety.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing for our country to come to terms with, is these are companies that, again, no longer is it, it's sad that we have to have this conversation in the first place. Like, oh, should you put the health of your own employees over your profits? So many companies, as we've discussed in this podcast, with things like crunch time and whatnot, and a lot of the industry, a lot of the industry things that are facing the gaming industry, we've talked about before how it's like, oh yeah, like it's sad that like companies often choose over their own people, but now it's beyond that. Now it's not just your own employees. Now it's the public well-being in general. Like, if you are responsible, you are partially responsible for spreading a pandemic because you want to milk your employees for every cent they're worth. Right. And that employee who's sick with coronavirus infects 20 people a day, and those 20 people go in and affect 2 people a person, then you've just exacerbated the issue. Yeah. And so it's like, are you serious? Like, you're putting profits over
in
that.
the history of the United States, we've solved the nefariousness of capitalism.
Yeah, that's
child labor laws.
That is late stage capitalism, right there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the next step, right? So we've gone how far along? Like, we're still fighting the fight of equal wages between men and women. We're still fighting this fight of sick leave and what you're talking about. But in the past, it was way worse. Yes. I mean, think about like worker safety in factories before OSHA came. Before that was a thing, when people's lives were in danger because the factory workers told them to go stick their arm in a machine to fix it when it was running, because they don't have safety practices in hand, and the lawsuits weren't a thing. Like, you couldn't sue the company because there wasn't ever any guards, right? Right. And then child labor laws, like, no, now you can't work if you're not 14 or under.
But things being better now doesn't mean we don't still have improvements to make. You know what I mean? It's like you would hope that we would get better. It's like, so when someone asks me that, like, well, what about back then? It's like, okay, great. Do you want to go back to back then?
No.
Do you want to go back to the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, where like the infant mortality rate was like 90%? So you had to have 18 children because 17 of them were going to die before they, you know what I mean? Before they reach their 30s. Like, no, like, we have a great thing going for us, and we have work to do to make it better.
And I hope that's a good silver lining to this whole thing, is I really hope that companies do change their tune. I am floored at the amount of money that companies are going to offer to lose. Like I said, it's almost straight altruism now. And the entire United States is getting a forceful experiment on what socialism looks like. Because the only reason, socialist practices, I should say, not a government system that is socialism, but a socialist implementation of certain types of things. The government has done the state of emergency. They have funds. They're backing loan officers. So if you lose your job and you can't make your mortgage payments, there is an agreement between the bank that you have your mortgage through and the government, because of the state of emergency, that allows the mortgage company to waive your late fees, to not let it affect your credit, to give you a chance to like find something. You're sick with COVID-19, you stay home, your company doesn't offer you because they're on that blacklist of horrible companies like McDonald's that won't pay you. Well, none of your bills are going to slide. Your utilities won't get cut off. Your family will be okay. You'll be fine. Here's like a 3-month extension on all of your entire financial obligations. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. That is incredible.
Life pro tip, by the way. This is something I learned recently on personal finance. So for anybody who might find themselves in that circumstance, I want to stress that, or a circumstance where your hours have been cut, or obviously you've been laid off, you can apply for unemployment. But if your hours have been cut, but you haven't been laid off or fired, then you can actually still apply for unemployment. So if you can, I learned this recently. It's actually, I think, super helpful and important for a lot of people to know that if you say your company, they won't fire you, but you're still an hourly employee and they've cut your hours down to like once a day or once every 2 weeks or something ridiculous. You can actually apply for unemployment. What'll happen is the unemployment office will call your boss and say, have you reduced their hours below a certain amount? And if the answer is yes, then you'll qualify for unemployment.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah, so it's just an important thing to know. So the life pro tip for you guys.
I'm also seeing a lot of altruism. Papa John's has come out and said they're offering free cheese pizzas to any kid who is stuck at home from school and can't get a free meal.
That's awesome.
And that's one. There's more. Like, more food places are producing like free, because a lot of kids rely on the school lunches to get fed. Period, because they're so impoverished, and so now there are companies willing to do the things like that cost money.
Take a hit.
It's amazing. If libraries are closed and you don't have free public internet access, that's a thing I haven't heard anything about yet. Like, where can you find, because livelihoods are online. Like, you have to have an internet connection almost now to survive. When you were talking about what you just said with the unemployment, to file or apply for those things, you might not be able to stand in line because of social distancing. So you might not be able to go to a physical location because it could be shut down. You need an internet connection, but the library's closed. What do you do? Like, I don't even know.
Solidarity at this point is super important for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, if you find yourself not being able to make it to the grocery store, or if you're sick and or if you're infected and you have to quarantine yourself, then like please reach out to your social community people. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised who would be willing to come help you, deliver you meals, or whatever you need to. Reach out to a church. You know what I mean? That's what churches exist for. Is again, they may not be able to necessarily like do a food drive, but someone in that church will deliver food to you. You know what I mean? So there's resources available. Again, if you need to apply for unemployment, like, please reach out to someone you know who has internet access, and if someone reaches out to you, please be willing in this time. We all have to get through this together, right? You know what I mean? So be willing to help one another. So
our church is doing a drive for canned foods and non-perishable goods to help kids who can't make it to school for lunch. Yeah, like there's a specific need that's being met through that. That was the other option I was thinking of. It wasn't just Papa John's. There is other restaurants that are doing it too. But it's cool. So like we're coming. Like, all of this in 2020, when we have the most contentious election the country has ever faced. And we have these debates that were happening on the Democratic primary, and like all of the noise is gone. It's all about solidarity, unity, like what can we do to help each other? It's companies like throwing away their profits. Now, I can't help but be slightly cynical.
Oh, of course. My immediate thought was like, clearly the government spread this intentionally.
No, that's crazy. That's off the deep end. What I'm saying is that the only reason why companies are willing to do these things that cost them money is because they know they've got the government backbone with which to fund them back. Whether it's an insurance policy
they also know
in
that
place,
if they don't, then people will be like, "Why didn't you do anything during the coronavirus?" Whereas instead, now they'll be able to in the future be like, "We helped." Blah 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 blah. People. That's what's crazy about this. People are going to be talking about this. Students are going to be studying this event for years, and we're living through it. We're living through it, and we're active contributors to it at this point. Nuts.
But I always say, and I've always beat the drum about every nefarious thing everyone complains about a company does. There's no such thing as altruism and capitalism at the same time. And right now it looks like there's a lot of altruism happening, and I'm super excited that people are doing it and they're being innovative and like executing these things. But insurance policies and government backbones and things that fund those companies back on the back end that we're not seeing, and I'm sure that it is in place, and it is allowing for companies to take risk. I am still super excited that someone is like, let's do this.
To be fair, there's little altruism in communism or socialism either.
There's like none.
When you've got a gun to your head, that's not altruism. That said,
yeah,
that's just a human problem. There's little altruism out there, period. And when it does pop up, it's an amazing, wonderful thing. So please be altruistic towards one another.
You should, yeah.
But just know that government systems tend to have little altruism.
To wrap all of this up.
Wow, that guy.
Yeah. Stay home. Please do not listen to stupid media about things. Like, listen to CDC, listen to scientists, listen to smart minds. They say stay home, social distancing, no gatherings more than 10.
Can't eat toilet paper.
And like, I left 4 packs of toilet paper on the shelf purposely because I had some at home. I didn't need it. And I didn't need to stock up because there'll be more. But be sensible, respect others. It's not about you, it's about the elderly. It's about the elderly and the people with already existing conditions. It's about saving their life. It's not about you. And the reason you do any of this stuff is not because you should have I'm an American and I can go to Red Robin and sit and have this burger. No, that is the most selfish, egotistical, arrogant American exceptionalism you could ever think of. Stop that thought and immediately stay home and think of everyone else who act like you have the virus already and you don't want to spread it. That's how you should act, even if you don't. That's our PSA. That's the 80-bit Podsmash public service announcement.
That's our little soapbox. It's been a while since we've really gone on a little soapbox. So that's good. That's good. I like that. So help each other out, and we'll have episodes and maybe some streaming, so if you're just bored.
Next week is our actual progression system discussion, which will be kind of fun. Maybe it'll inspire you to buy a digital game. And go play something new.
And
on the confines of the safe home that you have.
Beyond, I guess at that episode we say we don't know what we're doing, which is actually so true today. So we still have upcoming episodes in the future. So we'll see you next week, though.
See you next week.